What's up, guys? Fair warning here. I'm definitely not going to very thoroughly answer the question in the title of the video, and I'm going to talk in circles a bit because even I don't know how I really feel about what is too much photography in an image, specifically as it relates to landscape photography. But I started to think about this question about a year ago. A forum that I very occasionally visit and contribute to, fredmiranda.com. A photographer posted an image there, and it was a nighttime scene. There were rocks, a band of rocks in the background, and a pool of water in front of it. And on the left-hand side of the image was the moon, and it was reflected in the pool of water. A very beautiful scene. And in the comments below, one photographer asked, "Did you Photoshop the moon?" And what I think they were getting at is the original image was taken with a wide-angle lens, which can make the moon appear as an unrealistically small pinpoint of light. So I think they were asking, did you enlarge the moon? And instead, what the photographer said, and he was very honest about it, so I'll give him credit for that, he said that the moon wasn't even in his original composition. I think it was just outside the frame to the left, and he said that he just brought it in and photoshopped the reflection in the water. And oh my goodness, did that set off a firestorm. You had the photography purists on one side saying basically you created landscape photography treason, and then you had the other side of the argument was said, oh, you're making art. Who cares? You didn't hurt anybody. You created a beautiful scene. And eventually I think the topic had to get locked down because it got a bit chippy at the end. But even though I kind of sided with the photography purist, saying it felt wrong, to bring in a moon that wasn't in your original composition, well, I really started to think about it, like, why did it feel wrong? Why did that amount of Photoshop, why did that make me feel bad about an image as opposed to things that we all do, like adjusting contrast, exposure, things like that? And right off the bat, I'll say that the only time I think excessive use of Photoshop is wrong is if you're trying to sell something. I came across an image from a photographer. I don't remember who it was, and I wouldn't say anyway, but they were promoting one of their own workshops. And they were using a scene from a previous workshop. It was an image of a group of photographers lined up, taking a nighttime shot, and there was just a comically large moon photoshopped in the scene. And in that case, I feel that it's wrong because you're marketing something that doesn't exist. The moon's not going to be that big out there. And I would be willing to bet that there are people out there who saw that image that would think, for whatever reason, the moon does appear that large in Death Valley. And so if you're trying to sell something and you're, purposefully misrepresenting a scene, I think that's pretty cut and dry, right and wrong, and in this case, very wrong. But the rest of it is kind of up for debate, which is why I want to get your opinion in the comments below about it. I definitely see the art side of the argument. We are creating art. We're trying to make a pleasing image of a scene that people enjoy looking at, that brings them happiness. But on the other side of the argument, I feel that landscape photography is a little bit unique. I think there's some photojournalism involved, because unlike art where you're writing music or painting, we don't start with a blank canvas. We start with something that's already there. And I think there's some responsibility in there to present the image as faithful to the scene as we possibly can. And I'll get to more of that in just a second. But especially with as much as images are shared these days, you never know who's going to look at that image and be inspired to visit a place. I know, speaking from personal experience, I started my trip's design based off viewing a single image from Ben Horn. It's an image he called Paradise Cove. It's in the Narrows. And upon seeing it, I was just blown away that a place like that actually existed. And so, I bought a plane ticket based off of that. I rented a hotel room. I spent, well over $1,000 to travel out there to see something that I saw in a single image. And Ben didn't take that image to market the place, but because of where we are today, everything being shared, and again, that nature of landscape photography, I do feel that we do have a responsibility to our viewers, if you want to say that, to present an image as faithful to as it appeared to the naked eye as possible. So what does that involve? As faithful as possible, what does that mean? Well, for one, it's impossible. We can try to achieve it, but it is impossible. For you film shooters out there, you take an image based on Velvia, you take the same image on portrait, those are going to look vastly different straight out of the camera before you even manipulate it with developing printing or in Photoshop if you scan it. Same holds true for the digital crowd. If you line up a Canon and a Nikon side by side, zero out all of your in-camera adjustments, take those two images, they're going to appear different from each other, and they're going to be different from the way the scene actually looks. There's just no way to capture that. So I get what I'm saying. I hear myself. I'm saying we should try to capture something as it appears while knowing that that's impossible. But where is the line drawn? And this is what really got me, because believe it or not, and I know this is going to blow your mind, but I've actually photoshopped images before, even my film images. If you go on my website right now, two images in particular stick out. There is an image I call Where Angels Tread. It's a shot of Angels Landing taken from the canyon, and there's an arching tree over it. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest, I photoshopped out 3 little twigs hanging down from that tree. And as I was taking a shot, I was talking with my buddy Mark, who was right there with me, and he says, "You see those twigs, don't you?" And I said, "Yes, I saw them." And I said, "Yeah, I'm clone stamping those out, no problem." Another image that I used Photoshop in was an image I called Chance Encounter. It's in the Narrows, and a brilliant orange wall. And to the right of that wall, there's a massive, massive cottonwood. And in my composition, I saw it as I was composing, there was a little branch sticking in my composition from the right side. It covered maybe 5% of the image. And my intention was, because it's so hard to move your tripod in the Narrows, you got to set the legs down. There's a fly on my computer. Easily distracted. So you've got to work the tripod legs down in between the rocks. And so I got it set up where I wanted it. That branch was in there. My thinking was I'll just crop it later on once I scan it. So I scanned it in. I found out that when I cropped it, even that small amount of cropping, it really messed up with the balance of the image. So I had no problem taking a clone stamp tool and erasing that tree from all of memory. But that really got me thinking. The original image I was talking about, where the guy photoshopped the moon in, to me, I felt that was wrong. But I had no problem photoshopping out my own twigs or a branch that was just barely sticking in the image. And I'm asking this, I don't have an answer for it. What's the difference between him bringing in a moon and me photoshopping out these little minor things? They both made the image better. There's no doubt that the moon in his image made it better, and there's no doubt that in my image, having those distracting twigs hanging down, it made the image better. The same thing with the where I photoshopped out the cottonwood branch. That was a distracting element. With it gone, my image is definitely better. And furthermore, I started thinking about, well, how much into my scene did that branch have to come before it was too much to Photoshop out for me? And again, I don't have an answer for that question. Even further, you go into photoshopping an image before you actually take it. An image I have toward the light. It's again in the Narrows, and as I was setting up the image, there was a bunch of sticks caught between the rocks in my immediate foreground, and I knew that was going to be distracting. So, I grabbed them, chucked them out of the image. It made the image better, but it wasn't in the truest definition of the word, it wasn't exactly as it appeared in nature. You know, I altered it. Again, as my buddy Mark called it, the hand of man affected the image. Same exact thing with an image I call second chances. There was a rock, a group of rocks and cascades in the foreground, and there was a branch caught between it. So as I was composing, I was set up, grabbed the branch, chucked it, took the image. I can't say what the difference between doing that and photoshopping a moon in is. I really can't. And I would love to hear what you guys think about that. So I know I've not really answered anything, and I'm going to attempt to now, what I consider to be too much photoshopping, or what is wrong with altering an image. First thing I'll say is I think it's too much Photoshop if I can tell you photoshopped an image. If if you use HDR and you've got halos, if you have blending artifacts, if I can list off the techniques, oh my goodness, Orton Glow. If I see Orton Glow in your image and I know you've used Orton Glow, it's too much. That ruins an image for me. I don't want to go through my mind be checking off list of Photoshop techniques you've used. So if I can tell it's Photoshopped, it's too much Photoshop. Number two, I guess I'll say if you're dishonest about using Photoshop. Again, back to that first image I was talking about, the guy said, he Photoshopped the moon in. He wasn't trying to hide anything. So if you are trying to hide what you've done, I feel that that's a little dishonest as well. And then the third thing I'll say is that if nature just has a look to it, we can alter contrast and alter exposure, but there's still a look that we accept in our mind because we've all seen nature. The tonal values, the tonal relationships between the bright areas and dark areas. If that's just altered, then that's too much Photoshop. And the best I can say for that is you'll just know it when you see it. So really I want to shoot this out to you guys because I've had real trouble answering this question for myself. What do you feel is too much Photoshop for an image? Bringing in a moon, is that too much Photoshop for something that wasn't even in there? The things that I did, erasing those twigs, is that too much Photoshop? Altering color, adding a little bit of saturation, contrast, is that too much? My buddy Mark, again, he will not take an image if it's of the sky and it has a contrail in it. That's, to me, I've got no problem taking the clone stamp and just wiping that thing away. But he won't take an image with a contrail in it. That's just his personal value system, I guess, as it relates to landscape photography. So, again, I would love to get your feedback on this to help me answer my own question. What is too much Photoshop? Be sure and leave a comment below, and if you enjoy this content, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.